everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Liz, and in today's video I'm sharing with you all of my favorite Valentines DIYs that I did for this season. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope that you guys spend it with your loved ones. Wishing you all the best, and let's go ahead and get in today's video. For this first one, you're going to grab one of these heart wreath forms from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to take a piece of fabric. Now you can use whatever fabric you want. You could even use ribbon if you wanted to, but I wanted to create a backing for this so that when I glued things down to the wreath form, that it would stick a little bit better and it would give the back a cleaner finish. So all I did was cut out a square that was big enough for the outside of my heart, and then I traced out a heart from the middle, and I'm going to take some hot glue and I'm just going to wrap that fabric around the outside and the inside wires, just covering up those edges to give all the edges a nice clean look. You will have to do a little bit of cutting here and there to be able to wrap the fabric around the edges of the wreath, just because it's not all gonna fit perfectly. So I did have to do little snips here and there so that I could wrap that fabric around the wreath. Now I'm going to take pages from a book. I cut them in half and I'm going to start turning these into kind of flower-like petals. All I'm going to do is fold the paper in half, and then I'm going to kind of smush the edges all together. You can see what I'm doing here. And then at the bottom, I'm just going to form it into a point. I'm going to add some hot glue, and then I'm going to glue that down to my wreath. So again, just to show you, I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to kind of push those ends in, form a little point at the bottom, and then hot glue it down. And this is what I did around the entire wreath. I went around the outside portion of the wreath and then the inside portion. This did take me probably about 100 pages, plus I cut all those pages in half, so it was probably around 200 pieces that I had to do. But that's all going to depend on how you want your wreath to look. If you want it to look really full, the more pages you're going to use, obviously. Now again, while using a hot glue gun, make sure you are very careful. I ended up really burning my finger in this, so you'll see my thumb will have a band-aid on it soon. So just make sure you're wearing your protective silicone finger things and making sure that you're keeping your fingers away from that hot glue, because it hurt really bad. Once I've got all the pages in there as full as it can go, I took a look at it and found where I could still see some of that fabric or any other little spots that may be needing one or two more pages, and I just added those pieces where necessary. And that's it for this super adorable book page wreath. I absolutely love this. You could keep it as it is and hang it just like this in your home. I decided to grab this frame that I've had from Hobby Lobby for quite some time now, and I just hung it on there using a piece of ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I think it turned out absolutely adorable. This has got to be my favorite Valentine's piece of decor that I own. I absolutely love it.
I was at the wrong place at the right time, 'cause suddenly there you were with those bright blue eyes. We were conversing under the night sky when you took my hand.
If you guys are new to my channel, hey, my name's Liz and I love all things crafting and DIY. If that's something that you enjoy too, consider subscribing to my little crafting family. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook, where you can see other projects that I make and where you can also purchase my decals on my Facebook shop. So for this DIY, you're going to grab one of these signs from the Dollar Tree. I love this because it already has those kind of shiplap ridges in each end. So I'm just going to take my white Waverly chalk paint and I'm going to give this one coat. It's going to be really messy. You're not going to paint the entire thing you're not going to have full coverage. You're going to leave it very messy and kind of rustic looking. So you just kind of want to leave little spots here and there not fully covered. I love this kind of rustic look to it, so that is what I did here. Once I've got that all dry, I'm going to take my folk art chalk paint in French linen, and I'm going to use this big ruler leveler that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use that to give myself some faux shiplap lines. I just lined it up with those ridges in the sign that were already there. Now I'm going to take a chip brush and I'm going to go through and lightly distress the sign. I'm going to go over all the edges, and then I'll do a dry brushing throughout the middle of my sign. Now, if you've been on my channel long, you know that my freehanding is absolutely terrible, even when it comes to a heart. So I just found this online and printed it out so that I could have an outline of a heart without it being all crazy and wonky. So I just traced that onto my sign. Now I got these Sola Wood Flowers. I got these online. I'll link them down below. I just thought they were absolutely gorgeous, and I kept getting ads for them, and I finally decided to buy them. And I thought they were really, really pretty, and these were so cool. They actually kind of feel almost foamish, but they're wood. So I thought they were so much fun to use in a DIY, and I thought these colors were really pretty. Plus I got all the flowers that I have on clearance, so I got them for a super good deal. Like I said, if you're interested in them, I'll link them down below so that you can check them out as well. So I just started messing around with the placements of where I wanted the flowers to go, and once I had that figured out, I just started hot gluing them down to the sign. Like I said, I drew that heart so that it would help guide me, so that my heart actually looked like a heart, not just a big blob. So I just started with these really pretty mauve flowers for the outside of the heart, and then for the inside I went in with some browns, some natural ivory colors, some mini flowers, and I just kind of played around with it, filled it in where I felt like it was looking sparse and it needed some filling in. So I just went through the entire thing just with some hot glue and filled in the entire flower heart. Like I said, I think these flowers are so gorgeous, and I cannot wait to go on and buy some more because they were so much fun to work with. So I'm just gonna take some of this braided rope ribbon kind of thing that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just gonna use that as the hanger for my sign. I just pushed it through those holes that were already there, tied a knot to keep them in place, and that is it for this flower heart sign.
I was at the wrong place at the right time, 'cause suddenly there you were with those bright blue eyes. We were conversing under the night sky, when you took my hand, said let's leave now. Don't wanna be shy.
I grabbed this gold sparkly piggy bank from the Dollar Tree. I thought the frame on here was absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna start by disassembling this little piggy bank. I took out the back, removed that paper, and then to get the wording off of the glass, I tried going in with my 100% acetone nail polish remover. That works typically for me in the past, but for this one, for whatever reason, it just was not wanting to come off. So I did end up using a razor blade to get those words off of the glass. I'm going to take the backing of that piggy bank. I'm going to trace it over a piece of scrapbook paper. This scrapbook paper came from a pack from years ago from some scrapbooking warehouse. So I've had it for a really long time and I wanted to get some use out of it. So I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to use a glue stick to attach my scrapbook paper to the back of the sign. Now I'm gonna grab some florals. I just grabbed several from the Dollar Tree, from Walmart, and then I believe the pink flowers are from Michael's, I want to say. I just started playing around with which flowers and greenery that I wanted. Once I had those decided, I started messing around with the placement of the flowers on my sign. I always do this to make sure that I'm getting it exactly the way I want it before I start gluing everything down. So once I have an idea of how I want it to look, I'm gonna start attaching everything together. So these pink flowers were a little bit too widespread for me and I wanted to tie them together, so I just took some twine and tied them tightly together so that they weren't so spread out, and this winded up being perfect so that it would look like a little bouquet. So I'm going to start by hot gluing those pink flowers down right in the middle, and these red flowers are from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to start hot gluing them all around the pink flowers. I thought this turned out so cute, and the fact that it looks like a little bouquet in the shadow box at the end is absolutely adorable in my opinion, so I was super happy with the way this turned out. I'm going to take those leaves that came with the pink flowers. I just added some hot glue to the middle and then push those up around the stem of the pink flowers. And then I'm going to take a piece of twine and just tie a little cute dainty bow with it. Just using a shoelace tie method, making two little bunny ears and tying them together. I'm going to add some hot glue to the bottom of those leaves, and then I'm going to stick my bow right on top, cut off the excess twine, insert my backing back into the shadow box, and that is it for this adorable bouquet shadow box.
I hope I'll be something that you won't let go. I'll be your high when you fall down low. I hope I'll be your end destination.
DIY, I am going to trace out 6 hearts on a piece of cardboard. I just used one of these wooden sticker hearts that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I didn't have enough to use them in this DIY, but cardboard is the perfect alternative if you don't have those sticker hearts, and I am not very good when it comes to freehanding, so that is why I use the heart as just a template to get those hearts nice and even. Once I've got those hearts all drawn on there, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to start cutting out each heart. And then once all of those are cut out, I'm going to take some of these little adhesive dots that you can grab from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to stick those on my hearts so that my twine and string has something to grip onto without using hot glue. And I'm going to start by pressing that twine onto that adhesive dot. Now I'm just going to start wrapping my twine all the way around this heart. No which way or pattern to it. You're just going to do it in a messy kind of form. Just wrapping it all around that cardboard heart till you get the thickness and the coverage that you like. Once you've gotten that complete, you can cut off the excess and hot glue that remaining piece of twine down, and then you're just going to follow this same step for all of your hearts. I did 2 of each color, so 2 twine, 2 white string, and then 2 of that gray blue string. And you're just going to do that exact same thing. I did end up adding some more adhesive dots to each heart. I did about 4 per heart so that it would give a good base to stick down to. And then I just wrap the string all the way around the heart until I get it to the way that I want it, the amount of coverage that it has, and the thickness that I want it to have. It is super easy and simple to do. Now once I've got those all complete, I'm going to start by stringing them onto a piece of twine. I just strung the twine through a piece of the string on the back of the heart, arranged them the distance that I wanted them, and I also like this so that when I put this on my little fence, I can adjust the heart as necessary and they don't move around a ton or anything like that. They do stay in place. And if you know me and you've seen my past videos, you know that I love to make garlands to put on a little fence that I have on the top of my cupboards in my kitchen, and this looked so cute. cute on there, and this looked perfect for that fence.
I was at the wrong place at the right time, 'cause suddenly there you were with those bright blue eyes. We were conversing under the night sky, when you took my hand, said let's leave now.
Next DIY, you're gonna grab 2 of these hearts that you can get from the Dollar Tree. Now, I absolutely hate all the glitter that comes on these pieces, so to make it a little bit less messy, I just decided to rip that paper all off these hearts. It was actually really easy. I ended up covering them up anyways, but the glitter gets absolutely everywhere, so I decided to take the paper off. Now, I wanted my hearts to look the exact same, so I'm gonna take my Waverly chalk paint and plaster, and I'm just going to paint both of the edges of these. Now with the red one, I did have to go in with 2 coats just to get that red covered up. With the white one, I just went in with 1 light coat because really there wasn't too much of a difference from the white to the plaster. Once I have those all dry, I am gonna take some scrapbook paper that I got from Hobby Lobby. These come just in the single sheets that you can get for 25 cents. And I'm just gonna trace those hearts out onto the paper, and then I'm gonna cut both of those hearts out. And then once I've got those cut out, I'm gonna use a glue stick to attach my scrapbook paper to the hearts. And then once those are all the way dry, to get all those little bits and ends of excess scrapbook paper off of those hearts, I am just going to use some sandpaper, and I'm just going to do a downward motion on those hearts to get all the excess pieces of scrapbook paper off, and it leaves a really nice clean line. Now I'm going to begin attaching some twine to one of my hearts. I'm going to take these sticky dots that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I wanted this twine really tight on there, so I'm just going to add those to the back and then attach my twine to them. I'll wrap that twine around my heart twice, and then I'm going to tie a knot on the side. Next, I'm going to take this white lace ribbon that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to tie a simple bow just by taking 2 loops and tying them together. I'll adjust the loops till I get them the way that I like them, and then I'm going to take those pieces of twine that were left on the heart. I'm going to tie that into a little bow. And then I'm going to take that lace bow, add some hot glue, attach it to the back of the twine bow, and then I'll add some hot glue to the back of the lace bow and adhere it to my heart. I'm just going to cut off the excess ribbon and twine, and that's it for this heart. And then moving on to the other one, I'm going to take this burlap ribbon that you can get from burlapfabric.com. I'll have them linked in the description box below. I'm just going to wrap it around my heart and then hot glue it in the back. And then I'm going to take this super pretty sparkly rose gold ribbon that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to wrap it around my heart right on top of that burlap ribbon, and then I'm going to hot glue that down. And then for my last layer of ribbon, I'm going to take that same white lace. I'm going to tie a knot with it on the side of the heart. You don't necessarily need to do this. You can just hot glue it in the back. I had some different plans that didn't end up working out, so I just tied it in a knot and then cut off the excess pieces of ribbon. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing like I did before. I'm going to tie a little bow with this, just taking 2 loops, tying them in a knot, adjusting the loops, and then I'm going to hot glue that down to my heart right where I tied the knot. I'm just going to cut off that excess ribbon, and that is it for these 2 super cute little hearts. I absolutely love them. I love that they are a super neutral piece of decor with just a little pop of pink. If you aren't super into the reds and the pinks for Valentine's Day, I think that these are still a gorgeous neutral piece of decor. I'm going to take one of these square signs that you can get from the Dollar Tree. Now, I hate the amount of glitter that is on the back, and it gets all over my workspace when I'm crafting. So just to kind of kill two birds with one stone, I am going to place some hot glue on the back of it and cover the back with some craft paper just to make the back look finished and then to keep that glitter from getting everywhere. So once I am done getting that glued down, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in white. I'm going to give the back of the sign, which is now going to be the front, I'm going to do just a sparse and distressed kind of coat. Not everything is going to be completely covered, and that is the way I like it. Once that is all dry, I'm going to go in with my mineral color chalk paint from Waverly, and I'm going to use this ruler leveler that I got from the Dollar Tree to make those lines. I just followed those little indents that were already in the sign to make those lines. And then once I've got those on there, I'm just going to take that same brush and I'm just going to dry brush all around the sides of the sign, and then whatever's left on my brush, I'm going to drag it throughout the sign. I'm just doing this to give it some more distressing, some more texture. Now I'm going to take this love cutout. I believe I got this from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint and steel, and I'm going to paint the entire thing. The front, the sides, the insides, just every little piece of it is going to be painted in this color. So I'm going to set that aside to dry, and I'm going to take my sign again with some sandpaper, and I'm just going to go over all those lines to soften them up, make them look a little bit more faded so they aren't super harsh on my sign. So I'm going to take one of these rings that you can get basically from any kind of craft store, Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to take some super glue and stick that down to my sign. I didn't use hot glue because hot glue and metal just, it doesn't work very well, so I wanted to make sure that this was going to stick down. Now I'm going to take the love cutout and I'm going to use some hot glue to hot glue that down to the sign, and I'm just going to put that right in the middle of that ring. Now I'm going to start taking some greenery. You can use whatever greenery you want. The greenery is from Walmart, and then I believe I got these florals from Michael's. And then I'm just going to start placing them down where I think I want them, kind of get an idea of what I want it to look like. So that's what I always do first before I start hot gluing everything down, because once you start hot gluing, you can't really go back without making a huge old mess. So I'm just going to start hot gluing my greenery down to the sign where I want them, and then I'll place my florals on top. And I thought that this would be such a beautiful piece to transition from Valentine's to just spring. Obviously you can use whatever florals you want, but I love the little pops of pink in these for that Valentine's theme. And then really I feel like this is such a neutral piece that it can transition over into your spring decor, and that you can leave up even throughout most of the year. So I absolutely love the way that this piece turned out. Now for the hanger, I am going to take a piece of twine and some wooden beads that I got from Amazon. I'll have those linked down below for you. And I'm just going to string those beads on to make a cute little hanger. I am going to string that through the front of the sign, and I tied several knots so that I would have a big enough knot that it wasn't going to fall through the whole of the sign. And that's it for this project. I think it turned out super adorable. I absolutely love it. And let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know if I will ever figure out where the road goes.
I picked up these flowers from Hobby Lobby. They were on a 50% off sale, so I did get the bundle for $5. I feel like for the quality and for the amount of flowers that you're getting on here, it's absolutely worth it when comparing it to Dollar Tree florals. And then I also picked up this heart grapevine wreath from Hobby Lobby. It was also 40% off. I'm just going to start by cutting all the flowers off of the stem, and then I am going to remove the leaves from the bottom of all of those flowers. I'm going to start by taking my flowers and sticking them right into that wreath. The thing I like about grapevine wreaths the best is that you don't necessarily need a whole bunch of hot glue to assemble your wreath. You can just stick the stems down into the wreath and it stays pretty well on its own, and then you can always secure it with some floral wire, which I also do, so that I can get the flowers exactly in the place that I want them so that they're not poking out everywhere. And I just attach my flowers all going in the exact same direction. And then once I have all of my flowers on there, I'm going to take those leaves that I removed from the bottom of all the stems, and I'm just going to start placing those into my grapevine wreath wherever I feel like there's a bare or empty spot. So this is going to really fill up my wreath and make it look full and beautiful. I also use my pliers to kind of pull the bottom of those leaves through the grapevine wreath so that they are secure and in there, and then any that are a little bit loose, I do go in with some floral wire and attach it to those just so that they're even more secure. Then allows me to manipulate those flowers and get everything into the position that I want. I just prefer this method so that I'm not using a ton of hot glue, and then I can remove the flowers and reuse that wreath if I'd like. It's just way less messy, in my opinion.
That you'll come home to me once you travel the world, all the spaces inside your heart. I hope I'll be your end destination. I hope I'll be your life-changing sensation.
For this DIY, you're going to grab a shadow box from the Dollar Tree. I just started by taking the entire thing apart, taking the backing out, and removing the glass from the frame. Now I'm going to take some pure acetone. You could also use a little razor blade if you wanted, but I find that this is the easiest way for me to do it. I soaked some on a paper towel, and then I just started by removing the lettering from the back of the frame. I got this super cute scrapbook paper from a pack from Joann's, and I'm just going to trace out the back of that sign. I'm going to use a glue stick to attach it to that back piece of the sign. Now I'm going to take some Waverly Wax and Antique, and I'm just going to slightly distress this frame. It did have kind of a wood look to it, kind of some wood engravings, and I just wanted to make it look a little less plastic looking. So I just did a little dry brush technique over the entire frame. I'm going to take this table scatter hearts from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to insert my glass back into my frame, and I'm going to pour those on top of my glass. And then I'm just going to reassemble my entire frame. I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to take these rub-on transfers that you can also get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut out the letters to say, P.S. I love you. I love this saying, and it's actually one of my all-time favorite movies, so I had to put that on there. And I just lined everything up on the right side using a ruler to help keep me as straight as possible. And I just went from the top row to the bottom row just so that I could make sure that I was getting them as even as I possibly could, and then starting from the right, working my way to the left. And that is it for this super cute shadow box. I absolutely love the way that this turned out. It has one of my favorite all-time sayings on it, and I think it's such a cute piece of neutral decor.
Don't wanna be shy. I will let my guard down. Don't wanna be shy. I will let my guard down.
Next project, you're going to take a canvas bag. I got these from burlapfabric.com, which I will link in the description box below. And I'm going to take some roses that I got from the Dollar Tree. Now, I love this idea because you can switch out those flowers for any kind of season. So You can really transition this from Valentine's to spring and completely change up the look of this project just by switching out those flowers. So to fill the bottom up, I just stuck some burlap down in there just to make the bottom a little bit more full. And then I'm going to take those roses, I took 2 bundles of them, and I'm just going to fold that stem in, stick it down into the bag, and then I'll pull those strings on the sides tight so that the flowers are a bit more secure in there. And then I'm going to take some of this ribbon that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to hot glue it together around the top of that bag. I didn't hot glue it down to the bag so that if I wanted to switch out the ribbon I could. And then I just tied those drawstrings together so that the bag wouldn't come loose, and I'm just going to tie it in a double knot and let those strings hang to the side. I'm going to take that ribbon that I used before and just tie it into a super simple bow, adjusting the loops where needed. And then I'm going to take my hot glue and hot glue my bow right down to that ribbon. And that's it for this project. Like I said, I think this is such a pretty piece to be able to transition to different seasons or different holidays just by switching out those florals. So I love the way that this one turned out.
Down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down.
For this next DIY, you're going to take a shadow box that you can get from the Dollar Tree. Anyone will do. I just happen to have this one left over from fall. I'm going to use the back as the front of my sign. I'm just going to remove that sticker and then remove that sawtooth hanger. I'm going to start by painting my sign with my Waverly chalk paint and plaster. I'm just going to go over the sides and the front, and then I will cover the inside of the sides. I'm not going to paint the back because that is going to be covered up anyways. And then I'm going to take one of these heartwood plaques that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I just stained it using my Craft Smart stain in gray. I love this stain because it dries super fast. It's not smelly at all, and it's easy to get off your skin. I just picked mine up from Michael's. And I'm just going to do the same thing that you would do with a regular stain, paint it on, and then I just wiped it off with a paper towel. And then to give it a little bit extra something, a little bit more dimension, I'm going to take some white Waverly chalk paint and I'm just going to dry brush on the front of it, and then I just kind of smeared it in all together and rubbed it in. I'm going to take this scrapbook paper pack that you can get from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to take out a piece of scrapbook paper from there. I'm going to cut it down to size and insert it into the back of my sign. I thought this was so pretty because it's such a light pink that is perfect for Valentine's Day, but then again, it could also transition to spring. I'm going to take a tumbling tower piece from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to hot glue that to the back of my heart. I did this so that my heart would kind of stand out more from the sign. It would be more like a shadow box piece. And then I'm just going to hot glue my heart down to the center of my sign. I'm going to take some of this boxwood that you can get from Walmart. I just cut a couple pieces off and tied them together using some floral wire. I'm going to hot glue that to the top to cover up those little holes that were right there. And then I'm going to tie a bow using some twine. I just wrapped it around my fingers a couple times, took an excess piece of twine, and then just tied a knot in the middle of that. And that's all you have to do to make this really simple twine bow. It's super cute. And then I'm going to hot glue that down to the center of the greenery, and that's it for this project.
Jumping from cliffs so high, trusting our wings to fly. Sometimes we're crashing down, but we get up and start from the ground. And I really want...
For this this DIY, you're going to pick up one of these framed signs from the Dollar Tree. I love this because you can actually remove the frame. I'm going to start by removing that jute hanger, and then I'm also going to remove those staples that were holding that jute in place. I did just use a flathead screwdriver to get those removed. Then I started by removing that frame from the sign, and I used a flathead screwdriver to help me out. Now there were little tiny, almost like little staples throughout those pieces, so I did have to take some pliers and get those removed. So here's what the sign looks like with the frame off of it. I did take this to my garage and give it a good sanding to get all that glitter off of there. You can definitely just use a piece of sanding paper if you have one, but I found it much easier and much quicker to use my electric sander. I'm going to take some white Waverly chalk paint and I'm going to give my sign a good 2 coats of this paint. And then I always make sure to use my heat gun in between coats to speed up that drying process. So once that is all good and dry, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in mineral and I'm just going to add some little distressing lines. I just used a paintbrush that had a very flat top to it and I just went through and just drew little tiny lines all over the sign. After I got those painted on there, I took a baby wipe and just to soften those lines up a little bit, I'm just going to slightly go over them, kind of wiping off the paint and then smearing it around. Now I loved the natural wood look that this frame had, so I left those alone and I'm just going to go through and hot glue those pieces back down to my sign. Once I've got all that assembled, I'm going to take this decal that I cut out using my Cricut. I'll have a free printable link down in the description box below, and then I'll also have a link to the Cricut file if you have Cricut so that you can cut this out as well. I'm going to use my Expressions vinyl transfer tape to apply this to my sign. I do get a lot of questions about my transfer tape. It is from Expressions Vinyl, like I said, and I also do get my vinyl from there as well. And then one trick that I always like to do so that I can easily move my design around is just applying some wax paper to the back of my decal, letting a little bit of that decal hang off so that there's just a sliver of stickiness to the back. And then I'm able to just move that around, get it exactly where I want it without the decals sticking to the sign and then having to pull it up, and it just creates a whole big mess. So this is definitely a game changer when applying my decals. And then once I've got it where I want, I just press firmly on the spot where there is no wax paper, and then I just remove that wax paper and then lay my decal back down onto the sign, burnish it with my little scraper tool, and remove that transferred paper from the sign. And that's it for this super easy Valentine sign. It's absolutely adorable. I love how simple it is.
You're gone now, will you call me back? Yeah, I know that, yeah, I know that. You're the traveling kind, it's a known fact. Yeah, I know that. Once you've seen all the things, all the places,
you're going to grab one of these palette hearts that you can get from the Dollar Tree. They do have a couple different styles where the wood's going vertically. I got mine in the one that's going horizontally. That's just what I preferred. I'm going to remove the jute hanger and then I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in ballet slippers. I'm going to paint the second row of that palette in this color. I did just do one very light coat. I didn't get all the edges perfectly. I wanted some of that natural wood to peek through. And then to add some distressing, I'm going to take my Craft Smart stain in the color gray, and I am just going to hit all the edges of that second row and then drag it into the middle. So I wanted to heavily distress the outside, and then whatever was left on my brush, I just dragged it through that entire second row. I repeated this step using my Waverly chalk paint in white. And then I went through and painted all those little pieces that you could see in between each row in my ballet slipper color. I took a large chip brush and dipped it back into that stain that I used previously and went back over that second row. I wanted it to be a little bit more distressed. Now I'm going to take some scrapbook paper. I'm going to trace out the top of the heart and I'm going to cut that out. This scrapbook paper did come from Hobby Lobby, just in their single scrapbook paper sets. I'm going to use my glue stick to attach that scrapbook paper to the top of my heart. And then for the bottom of the heart, I'm going to take this other scrapbook paper that I have, and I believe I got this in a pack from Joann's. And again, I'm just going to use my glue stick to attach this paper down. I thought this was so pretty with the gold foiled hearts on there. It matched perfectly with my shadow box sign. So if you have any paper hanging off of any of the edges, I just like taking a piece of sandpaper and running across that paper to get all the excess off. It makes a really nice and clean, smooth line. So this is what I do whenever I'm using some scrapbook paper on something. Any of those extra hanging bits, I just go over with a bit of sandpaper. And then I also feel like it gives it that extra distressed look to it. So my pink slat was looking a little bit too distressed for my taste and a little bit too dark, so I just went back over it with a little bit more of that pink. I'm going to take this sign that I also got from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to remove all 3 of those galvanized hearts. I'm just going to take a flathead screwdriver and just pop them right off. Now I'm going to use some hot glue and I'm going to hot glue those galvanized hearts to my pink slat. I just did the middle one first so I could make sure that was nice and centered, and then I hot glued my other ones to the sides. And that's it for this super adorable palette heart.
You're far away and yet so close. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, you're up in space. You're inside the noise. I can feel you. Once you've seen all the things, all the places, I hope it means that you'll come home to me. Once you've traveled the world, all the spaces inside your heart. I hope I'll be your destination. Now you won't let go. I'll be your high when you fall down low. I hope I'll be your destination.
You're going to take a little small sign that you can get from the Dollar Tree. Really, any kind of sign that is going to fit in your tiered tray will work. This is the one that I had, so I just went ahead and cut off that little truck at the top just using a crafter's blade, and then a blade that I also picked up from the Dollar Tree. I just scored it a couple times on the front and the back, and then I was able to just bend it a couple times and it snapped right off. Once I did that, I just got some sandpaper and sanded down that rough edge. I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in white and I'm going to paint my entire little sign. I'm not going to worry too much about the front of the sign where the cow is, because it is going to be covered up with some scrapbook paper, but I did just want to give it a nice even coat so that if there was any kind of see-through with the scrapbook paper, that it would just mostly blend in and look all white. So I just gave this a good couple of coats using my heat gun in between coats. Now once that is all nice and dry, I am going to take this scrapbook paper that I got in a pack years ago, before when my oldest was less than 1 year old. I just got it at some random scrapbook store. So just use any kind of Valentine's scrapbook paper that you have. I'm sure Hobby Lobby has plenty of it. And I'm going to cut this down to size so that I can insert this into my sign. I just used a glue stick and I just pressed it down into my sign. Now one thing that for some reason was lost in my footage is I did distress across my sign just a little bit using some silver lining chalk paint from Waverly. I just went around all the edges and the border of the sign just to give it a little bit of a distressed look. I didn't do anything too crazy. I almost completely forgot that I did it, so I did just distress it a little bit around the outside. Now I'm going to take these heart stickers that you can also get from the Dollar Tree. I took the big red glittery one because I thought it was super pretty, and then I'm going to take a smaller heart that is just in the natural wood color, and I'm going to hot glue these two hearts together. I'm going to take one of these wooden cubes that you can also get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to hot glue that onto the back of the heart, and then I'm going to hot glue that to the sign. Now I'm going to take some twine. I got this twine from burlapfabric.com, but you can also get twine from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to make a simple shoelace bow out of that twine. I'm going to hot glue it to the corner of my sign, and then I'm going to use some of this sticky tape. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's the first time that I saw it at the Dollar Tree, but I just added a little bit of this stickiness to my sign and added my twine tails to it just so that those would stick down and give it a really cute border around my sign. We're going to take some wood hearts. You can find some at the Dollar Tree. These ones were from Hobby Lobby. And I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint and ballet slipper, and I'm just going to give each of these hearts one coat. And then I'm going to take a white marker that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to draw stitching lines around both of my hearts. Now, like I said, if you know me, my freehanding is absolutely terrible. I don't know why. I see all these other crafters doing the stitching lines and it looks super, super pretty. You'd think that just drawing lines would be super easy, but apparently for me, it's not. So it ended up looking a little weird, but I just went with it. And in the end, I thought it turned out okay. So I just added the stitching lines to both of them, and then I'm going to take one of these crates that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I left it as is. I'm just going to use some hot glue and attach those to the front of this crate. I'm going to take some floral foam from the Dollar Tree, cut it down to the size that I need it, and then hot glue it to the bottom of my crate. Now I'm going to take these roses that you can also get from the Dollar Tree, and I thought that these were so beautiful. It's very neutral, but you got that pop of peachy pink in the center, so I thought that these were absolutely gorgeous. And I'm just going to cut them off the stems. I used 2 bundles of these, and I'm just going to place them into that foam where I want them, where I think it looks good. And then I took some greenery that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I just cut it apart and started sticking them in between the roses, just really wherever you like them, wherever you feel like it looks good. I just played around with it a little bit until I got the desired look, and I thought this turned out absolutely gorgeous. I think it looks like such a beautiful little bouquet in a crate. So I am loving this piece for Valentine's Day.
Kiss a little harder. I wanna love out loud. Talk a little deeper. Kiss a little harder. Love a little louder.
Super simple, quick and easy DIY that can be left up all year round. I plan on having these up for quite a while because I absolutely love the way they turn out. I cut out these 2 decals using my Cricut. Now I should have probably put a little bit more pressure on my blade when cutting these out. It is a glittery metallic kind of vinyl, which I thought was absolutely gorgeous, but it is a little bit thicker than normal vinyl. It did cut all the way through, but it did give me some issues while weeding. So just keep in mind when you're using different kind of vinyl to check what pressure or what setting you should have your Cricut on when cutting them out. It'll make your life so much easier. So I'm just going to weed these out, and then I'm going to use my Expressions vinyl transfer tape. I did get the vinyl and the transfer tape both from expressionsvinyl.com. I will have them linked below. I get a lot of questions about my transfer tape. This is by far my favorite. And then I'm just going to apply those decals to my candlesticks that I got from the Dollar Tree. And with this vinyl, it stuck to this glass really, really well. It was kind of, if you stuck it down once, there was no bringing it back up, so make sure you get it exactly where you want it before you press it down. And then to finish these off, I'm going to take some twine, I'm going to wrap it around the top a couple of times, tie it in a double knot, and then I will tie a bow on there as well. I'll cut off the excess twine, and that's it for these candlesticks. Super easy. This took me like 5 minutes to do, and I thought they turned out absolutely adorable. Like I said, I'll have these up in my house for a really long time, especially because I love that rose gold, shiny, glittery vinyl that I put on there. I think it's absolutely adorable.
If I never figure out where the road goes, even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the skies fall. I was at the wrong place at the right time, 'cause suddenly there you were with those bright blue eyes. We were conversing under the night sky, when you took my hand, said let's leave now. Don't wanna be shy, I will let my guard down. Don't wanna be shy, I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud, talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. I wanna laugh out loud, talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder, love a little louder, love a little louder. We went to a small bar with neon lights, talked about everything that was on our minds. Talking to you gave me butterflies, then you took my hand, said let's leave now. Don't wanna be shy, I will let my guard down. Don't wanna be shy, I will let my guard down. I wanna laugh out loud, talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder. I wanna laugh out loud, talk a little deeper, kiss a little harder, love a little louder, love a little louder, love a little louder, love a little louder.
That's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorite Valentine's Day project is in the comments down below. Let me know what fun plans did you guys have for today. I plan on just spending it with my husband and my 3 kids, just relaxing at home. That's about it. That's my perfect Valentine's Day. Don't forget to subscribe before you guys leave. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!
Talk a little